Hi weaving friends, today I'm starting to weave a new scarf for my daughter. This is a request and I'm very happy to be sharing a little bit of it with you today. I'm using my garden path scarf pattern and this is still my best-selling pattern that I have in my design store. I'll leave a link to it somewhere so you can check it out, and I'll have a bunch of links down below for you as well. Just in case you want to check out any of the products that I'm using in this video. I won't necessarily talk about them, but you'll probably see them and you might wonder, what is that? So for example, here I am using like a combination of the yank and crank method and also tensioning the warp myself. And a vital part of that is to use some paper, and I use brown craft paper on a roll, but it's a specific type and a specific weight. Like it's heavier than wrapping paper. If you use something like wrapping paper, it's probably just going to tear, it's going to crinkle, and that is really going to annoy you. So it's important to use the right kind of paper, and I will have an example of that linked down below. So I often use this warping method. It works really, really well. For me, I think of it as kind of the best of both worlds because it has the benefits of yank and crank, which is a little less hands-on, but it also has the benefit of having your warp constantly under tension and therefore getting really good tension. And what I'm paying particular attention to as I'm holding the warp there, by the way, this is sped up. I do not warp that fast. I'm paying particular attention to the middle of the warp. When I'm at the back of the loom here, right there, holding onto the warp, I'm making sure that it's really tensioned in the middle because that's one spot where the tension often gets a little bit neglected because you're holding a bunch of threads and the outer threads will naturally be more tensioned than the inner threads. So just have a think about that and how you can implement that in your own warping. It's well worth doing. And so I've rolled on my warp and I'm cutting my loops now. This is an interesting project in a number of ways. Initially, I was just going to come here and play a little bit of music and sort of demonstrate or just share what I am doing here on the loom. But I have more to share because as I've been weaving this project, I've had a lot of thoughts going on. So what's happening is our eldest daughter is leaving home. I'm not going to give any particular details about where she's going or anything or what she's doing because that's because I want to protect her privacy. But suffice to say is it's a huge life shift and we're not going to be able to see her very often. It sounds like she's going to prison. She's not going to prison, I promise. Okay, so she is going somewhere that's quite cold, and so she's going to need a nice winter scarf. And me personally, if you see me in winter, any day of winter, I will have a garden path scarf around my neck. So I thought, well, I've just got to weave her a garden path scarf as well. And she chose this kind of, it's almost like a beige, like a light beige color, which I think is going to be really lovely. Something I love about this pattern is it weaves up really fast because even though you're doing most of the work at the front of the loom in the form of a finger controlled technique, it is very open and lacy. So it actually works up very quickly. So anyway, as I've been working on this project, I've been kind of processing thoughts and emotions about our daughter going away. And it really reminded me of the time when our son was in hospital back in 2017. If you have been with me on this channel for a long time, because we're coming up to 10 years. I know, it's hard to believe, but 10 years, very soon we will celebrate 10 years on this channel. So he was in hospital on life support, and this was such a hard time in my life, really the hardest time. It started out as influenza and moved to pneumonia and collapsed lung and multiple surgeries. He was very, very sick and he was on life support. And I was also sick at that time. I had the flu as well. It was pretty bad, and there were days where I couldn't go to the hospital and be with him. And that, in my mind, I was just really going crazy. All I wanted to do was to be there with him. We didn't know whether he was going to make it. And so what did I do? I worked on my weaving. It might seem strange at such a time, to do something that might be seen as a fun hobby or, something kind of superfluous like weaving. But what happened was it allowed me to cope. I was working on a very particular project. I was going to enter a scarf into the Melbourne Show craft category for that year. And it was beautiful silk scarf. I'll try and put a picture of it up here. It was gorgeous. It is gorgeous. I actually gave it to my daughter-in-law, but I still love it. It's beautiful. But it allowed me to have a focus, and there is truly something about the rhythmic, repetitive acts of weaving, of sitting down, of being hyper-focused on a piece of equipment, but also having something growing before your eyes, touching yarn, using your hands. It is restorative, and it really allows you to cope when you don't know what else to do. And as you sit there, you think a lot, okay? Especially if you're working on a repetitive project where you've got the pattern down and all you need to do is just follow muscle memory, basically. You know exactly what you're doing. And so you have a lot of time to think things over. And so for me, while I'm working on this project for my daughter, I'm thinking of her wearing the scarf. I promised myself I was not going to get emotional in this video. Sorry. I think of her wearing it and being warm and safe and happy. I have to say, I am a perimenopausal woman. And one thing that's really difficult about perimenopause is trying to keep control of your emotions. So hard. It's like your emotions are just on steroids. So anything that's like normally difficult becomes extremely difficult. One thing that I've always really hated ever since I was a kid at school, especially at school, is I never wanted anyone to see me cry. I never wanted anyone to know or see that I was weak, that I was vulnerable. And it's taken me a long time to just try to be okay with that. And going through perimenopause, which has been really, really difficult in so many ways. I've talked about that a little bit on my other channel. I've talked about it a little bit here as well. But I still haven't talked about it that much because, again, it's that allowing yourself to be vulnerable, But I'm still trying to come to terms with if something is a bit overwhelming emotionally, to just say to myself, it's okay. Other people might think I'm silly or that I'm over the top or that I'm not in control of myself enough, but I have to be at a point of saying it's okay because I can't help it, I'm doing everything I can to not be overly emotional, but there are times where tough things happen and you just got to let it out and you got to do what you got to do to cope with that. Which brings me back to the weaving. So I'm spending quite a bit of time weaving at the moment because it's really, really good for me. in processing thoughts and emotions. And I think a lot of people, they don't necessarily weave for that reason, but when you weave for long enough and you get to that point of having the confidence to know what you're doing, then it becomes more of a process. It becomes more meditative. It becomes more prayerful if that's for you. And it helps you so much to work through things. I hear from so many weavers who are in a period of grief. They've lost a spouse, or they've lost a child, or something really hard, and they weave. And a lot of people will say that it's being able to do the weaving that really saved them, because it gave them a focus. And I'm definitely feeling that at the moment. Sorry about all that. Sometimes you just gotta be real, and you've got to share it with others. I know a lot of people are going through hard times, and sometimes it's just helpful to see somebody else being a human being and being like, it's really hard, and sometimes I break down because of that. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not as strong as I want to be. I'm doing my best. I'm trying, but it's really hard. And I guess sharing that vulnerability can be helpful to people. Well, I didn't talk about my weaving very much, did I? I'm at the hem stitching point now for this. I have hem stitching videos here on YouTube, quite a number of them actually. And I'm using my favourite bent tip gold needle. That'll be linked down below as well. Since I filmed this video, which was actually yesterday when I was filming it, I've been working on the scarf again today, and I've gotten like a lot of the way through it. So don't be intimidated by the way that it looks. I know it kind of looks like a complicated weave, but it's really not. It's just plain weave threading. So if you know how to do plain weave on your rigid heddle loom, you can even do this on another type of loom, as long as you can get those two shafts. We're just using an up and down shed. And then apart from that, all you really need is like your shuttle, a stick shuttle for doing your it's called a finger controlled technique, but really you're using your shuttle to pick up all the warp groups that you need. And then the yarn does the rest, and it's not difficult. It's not as difficult as it looks. And it makes a really gorgeous scarf. I'll pop on the screen here some other garden path scarves that I've made in different colours. And yes, it remains my best-selling pattern, and it remains my very favourite scarf to wear all winter. And you might think, because it's such an open, lacy weave, oh, how could it be so warm? But I tell you, I weave mine in some beautiful Australian merino, and it is very warm, even though it's a lacy weave. Occasionally I have kits for sale. I haven't had any for a while, but I'm thinking about doing some again, where I have the yarn all balled up for you, beautiful Australian yarn, and then you get the pattern as well. So that could be an option. Otherwise, the pattern is in my design store. So I guess I'm going to say thank you for listening today. Bit of a different type of video, hey. It wasn't what I had planned. It's definitely not what I had planned, but I love to share anything with you all that might help, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. And until next time, happy weaving.